Before we start this thing proper, first of all, welcome to the podcast. My name is Midnight Jester. You may or may not have heard some of my previous Ironsworn campaigns over on YouTube. I had a first one that was kind of a short lived solo campaign set in the Weird West, known as Ironsworn Western Frontier, and then a somewhat longer on and off co op game with my girlfriend at the time that was just kind of more set in the standard Ironsworn assumptions. I should warn you if you wind up going back to watch them now, the second one does end kind of abruptly. Real life sort of got in the way, unfortunately. But there's still a lot of cool stuff along the way, so if you're interested, I've got links in the show notes. This time, however, I'm going to be doing Starforged for the first time, the sci-fi setting. And before recording this podcast, I did do some of the Session Zero sort of figuring out the starting situation, figuring out my character ahead of time. So I figured I would take this opportunity to tell you just a quick version of all of that. This campaign is going to be around a character named Emile Spencer. He's kind of a real techie scavenger, gets by with hacking everything, uses his wits because I've got a type. And Emile is going to be shortly waking up in the middle of a bit of a shitstorm. He comes to on a starship that is in the middle of crashing into a planet. It is deorbiting now. It is completely abandoned and way too complicated for him to fly by himself, so he is going to have to figure out what he can do to escape in time. He has very little in the way of memory, but the last thing he does remember was that this ship was part of an expedition to chase after this cosmic space beast known as VY572. And he doesn't remember exactly how it went, but clearly something went wrong, and now everything is failing and he has to get off this ship. So, Emile has a couple of vows. His epic one is that if it takes him to the end of his days, he is going to find VY572 and destroy it. And then his imminent vow that will start off the game in just a moment is that he has to get off this ship before it crashes. It's going to be a race against the clock on that one, so you'll get to see how it goes. Now, ordinarily, when you start a game of Ironsworn or Starforged, you do a section called Our Truths, where you kind of define the campaign setting, and this time around, I deliberately didn't do that. I'm going more off of vibes than specific ideas about what's going to be part of this world. The vibe I want is what I describe as a prog rock album cover, where it's all just spacey and technicolor and awesome, and anything could be part of it. You never know. I didn't want anything off the table, so we're going to see what happens as the result of die rolls, and hope it's going to be just all kinds of imaginative, cool stuff. Lastly, this podcast is not intended to teach the systems of Ironsworn or Starforged, but I am generally going to be clear about what I'm doing and why, and while you may not understand every aspect of the rules, you'll still follow along, I would imagine. And of course, if you want to know more about exactly how the system works, you can always head over to ironswornrpg.com and pick up for free the main rules of Ironsworn, which, while not exactly identical to Starforged, will get you most of the way there to understanding what's going on in this one. Highly recommend it, one of my favorite RPGs. And with all that out of the way, I hope you enjoy. Stranded in space on a ship crashing into the atmosphere of an unknown planet, Emile Spencer knew that the only way to survive would be by his own wits and guile. He vowed that somehow he would find and slay the titanic cosmic beast that put him in this predicament, VY572. With every installment, we follow Emile's explorations and discoveries on this journey of revenge against all odds. I'm Midnight Jester, and this is the Left Behind Starforged series. One of the first things that I determined about this game, as far as the world, is swearing an iron vow. Usually that has a really great significance. There's truth around what iron means. I envision Emile is not going to be literally swearing on iron all the time. Emile is going to be setting an agenda for himself and pursuing his goals, but truly swearing on iron, I think in this world, swearing on iron is more of a colloquialism than anything else. Most people don't actually do it. People know that that phrase means that you're standing by your word, that it's a very important promise to you. An iron vow is it's almost like saying a pinky promise, even if you don't literally make one. It's like a more serious version of a pinky promise. People know that you mean business when you say an iron vow, or maybe you're being sarcastic with it, but like it implies a big deal to you. Emil's not literally going to be swearing on a piece of iron. There are probably people in this universe that still do, though. I think that in this game, those who actually swear on iron are going to be adherents of a certain religion. I haven't even determined how widespread or not, but truly devout people still hold a certain mysticism to the idea of swearing on iron, but it's a really old school kind of thing. I think most people just say it as a phrase, and Emile is one of those people. So Emile, thinking to himself, knows that in this moment, as he looks around and there's just flames and wreckage and klaxons everywhere, all kinds of noises and steam hissing from consoles and just a bad time, this thing is rocking from the turbulence of the atmosphere. He knows that he has to escape to safety before the ship crashes. We're going to make the swear an iron vow move and see how this goes. So when you swear upon iron to complete a quest, write your vow and give it a rank. We've already done that much. This is going to be a very, let's see, I forget the levels. It's formidable. Troublesome, dangerous, formidable, extreme, and epic. This is going to be a formidable thing. Like, this is beyond dangerous right now. There's such little time, and he's still getting his bearings, so he's got to work fast in a very unfamiliar situation. This is just a heart roll. Let's see how he does. Alright, we start with a weak hit. You're determined, but begin your quest with more questions than answers. Take +1 momentum and envision what you do to find a path forward. I'm going to set my momentum to +3 here. I think the issue is indeed that Emile doesn't even really know what is. He took a big blow to the head during whatever knocked him out, and so really is still getting a feel for where he even is in the ship, barely remembering the layout or anything like that. And so I think those are the questions he has, is not fully where am I? He still recognizes that he's on the Reacher. He's been on it long enough. He is familiar with that much, but where escape pods are and how to get them activated or anything like that, like how to get off this thing in time safely, the layout of it all, it's beyond him. So I think at this moment he does not know where to go or what room he's in. And so with that in mind, why don't we start off by finding out a little bit more? We're going to treat this like a derelict, and we are going to find out this oracle here. We're going to find out what kind of area he's in on this ship. It's a big ship with a lot of different parts to it. Okay, so kind of lucky for him, it turns out as Emile looks around and gets his bearings a little bit, you're seeing a lot of just like, it's scattered all over the place, but there's toppled medical equipment, vials of different medicines and stuff just scattered all over the floor, some shattered, some not. There are definitely some spills. I don't think it's in a very good condition. There is like, the like kind of main console in the room that connects to all kinds of other stuff is probably sputtering with sparks and things like that. Let's find a little bit more. What is this exact room we're in? Okay, we're in a clinic right now where there's a dissected specimen. Okay, interesting. So I think that perhaps that specimen is part of like the Great Leviathan they've been chasing, VY572. It's been studied for a while when they came out here. And I think part of why this went so wrong is they made the mistake of bringing this specimen of like an old, like, it's just like a fragment of a, it looks almost like a giant hunk of rock just because of how big this full creature is. And what it really is a huge section of an egg. I barely even look. It's just like a broken off piece of shell that almost looks like it's just petrified or something like that. it seems weird at first that it's in this medical bay, but it's been studied because they recognized that this is a piece of something living. And so it was in here. Now, as far as why Emile Spencer was in the medical bay to begin with, I'm going to use another oracle to. Actually, no. Emile doesn't remember. Emile doesn't know why he's here. He was. This is where he's waking up. There's still nobody else around. Clearly, no escape pods in here or anything like that. Since Emile, one of the main things that he has is he knows his tech, and one of the key things I imagine him in is kind of gear on his body. Is he's got this kind of like hacking glove that's synced up to a sort of AR display that is always hollow projected in front of his face. And so, like, other people can see it as well, vaguely. It's probably not as in focus to them, but you can see kind of the color blur that he's looking at as his hand connects to different things through, haptics and all kinds of motions in the air. And so he'd be looking at the kind of sparking terminal in this room and trying to see if there's any way, like, maybe the sparking bit isn't that important. If he can find out, get a map on it. He knows he doesn't have a lot of time, and this is at least like the screen. I envision it as like it's on, but like it's kind of janky and stuff, and like almost like the V sync is off in an old analog or something like that. And that maybe he can get it stabilized and able to use this terminal to find out like how to get off this thing. And so this is definitely not my scavenger move, but the gearhead move. When you make a move to craft, repair, repurpose, or modify equipment or technology, add +1 and take +1 momentum on a hit. That is definitely what he's doing. He's tapping into his inner gearhead to try and get this thing fixed so that he can find a way out of here. So I do think that this is... We're not yet at gather information. That'll be after I've fixed it. I think what I'm really trying to do is secure an advantage at this moment, because there's nothing that risky about it. The sparks aren't, like, that bad. He's not going to get shocked or anything like that. So we're going to secure an advantage with wits. We're going to add a +1, and we will see what happens. Strong hit. Excellent. You succeed. Take +2 momentum. And add +1 on my next move, not a progress move. So, successfully, Emile, holds out his left hand, makes these various motions in the air, and it's like his right. It's kind of like one hand up, making these gestures. Another one has there's like a belt pouch with various different keys on it and stuff. And he's like hitting various modifier keys and stuff, and it's all completely second nature to Emile. Like he does this better than he writes with a pen. Like this is just natural. And so he's hooked in there, and he's probably just resetting something, like something in the terminal is just knocked out of sync, and he's accessing. Please don't judge me for my own tech knowledge here, but he gets deep into the system to be able to it's like subsystems that actually deal with the mechanics of it, because there's like something out of alignment, and so he's like gone in to manually move like a physical component inside with kind of like there's like nanobots in there or something that like go in and can make adjustments when you command them to. And so he's gone in to tell these little nanobots to put this piece back in alignment so that the screen can get better, and then reset everything. And there's a moment where Emile's just come on, please work, because like the screen's off, and there's a part of him that's wondering, is it ever going to turn on again, or is it just shut down forever now? And then the startup goes, it does its OS stuff. Yes! And we have this danger clock here about the ship crashing, and this is quick enough that I am not going to advance it. It was a strong hit. But now, I think this is all about the gather information. Now we need to actually navigate through the OS on here and pull up, where am I on the ship? Where are escape pods? Are they operational? All of these things that he wants to know. So we're going to do a gather information. We're rolling with our wits, and we get to add the +1 from our secure an advantage. I don't believe... Actually, would Gearhead still help me out here? No, because that's specifically about like physical crafting and repairing stuff like that. I'm not about the research itself. Um, Though my scavenger, when you gather information or resupply by scavenging a wreck, ruin, or abandoned site, you know what? No, that's not exactly what I'm not scavenging. I am in a wreck, and I am a scavenger, but that is not how I'm gathering information right now. That doesn't apply. Let's just roll our wits and see what happens. Strong hit again. This is going way better than my last game of Ironsworn, where I started off with 5 misses in a row. It was real tough to get started. So indeed, we gather information, we discover something helpful and specific. The path you must follow or action you must take to make progress is made clear. Envision what you learned, then take +2 momentum. So he certainly learns that he's in the medical area, and that I could actually imagine that due to, people in critical condition and stuff like that probably being the ones that would be most likely to have to get off the ship, I think the main thing that he learns is that the med bays are not far from escape pods. It is if you got to bail out quickly, you can get the most critical patients off this ship. So he learns. We're gonna roll some dice to find out exactly how many, but the first thing he learns is that there are, in theory, escape pods within like a kind of just down the hallway type of thing. Like he's really not far from some opportunities. So we're gonna ask the Oracle a few things, and these are all the things he's learning through that gather information right now. So first question is how is there an operational escape pod there? Now I am going to put this as unlikely, if only because part of the reason why they're so handily nearby was that same thing I was just saying, that the most vulnerable people they would want to escape first. So probably a lot of these have already happened. Like the people that were in the med bay, they already got off. There's certainly nobody around right now. And so I'm going to make this unlikely. So is there... The question is there a working escape pod in that, bay that he just found in medbay? No. No, and solidly no on that result. That wasn't even close. Even that actually would have failed even an almost certain, I believe. Yeah. It would have, even on almost certain, that 91 would have not made it. So they're solidly no. So I envision that there's like a bay of them, like, I don't know, maybe this is a pretty big ship. Call it like 5 to 10 escape pods there, each capable of having a small like handful of people inside, and they're just all launched. They're all gone. And or actually, hold on. Let's ask another question, because we found there's not a working escape pod there. I want to find out if there are any that aren't launched. So, are there any that just weren't operational and haven't launched, but they're malfunctioning? I also think that unlikely, but maybe it could happen. So, are there any left behind that were just malfunctioning and have to be fixed up somehow? No. All right. So this whole area not going to be great as far as escape pods go. But my gather information did say that I have a clear path of action that I must take, not just a clear dead end. So I think in this process, when looking it up, he's searching for active, functional escape pods. I think he's going to find one that is still available. I'm going to do the derelict thing again to find out like what part of the ship would it be. We're going to come up with a zone of a starship. Engineering. Okay. So engine. He finds that there are still operational. Like there is an escape pod that is operational in the engineering section, which is definitely not close from here. Like you got to go way down into the bowels of the ship, down and towards the back by the engines themselves. That's why they're called engineers. But if you can navigate all the way there, there is one. Let's find out a little bit more detail about it. Like, and I think he also finds out that like it's. I think it's a to keep this interesting. It's a private one. Like this is. It's not exactly that it's like. I think what he determines all the escape pods themselves, like the actual escape pods, they're gone. But in engineering, he's able to pull up a like an old file and log entry from one of the engineers had their own side project of like their own kind of like customized one that was not quite like a snub fighter like not their own like ship like that, but it was a little bit more like they'd made modifications to increase the hull a little bit, like be a little bit more substantial and have a better shot at like surviving a tough landing. So they're okay, so that's what it's going to be. So it's there's an escape pod in engineering that was in the process of being modified. Perhaps it had a they determined there was a fault with it at one point or something like that, and so they took it into engineering to be repaired so it could be put back in, and that's why it hasn't been launched. So there is one. It is not in a tube, and it may or may not be fully done. Like the files are unclear about whether or not the repairs got finished. They might be, they might not. So he can't determine it from here. But he knows, Emile knows, going to engineering would get him a way off of here. So far so good. It's not been taking a lot of time, but here's the time for that to change. Oh, and now that he does have a lead on one, I will mark progress on that first vow about escaping to safety before the ship crashes. Let's give ourselves our first mark there. We have a solid lead, but we got to get there. And first, we got to download some map to make that as easy as possible. So we're again going to be doing the Scene Challenge version of Secure an Advantage. And again, we'll be doing this with wits. This is the expertise to get those files downloaded and loaded up so he has kind of a heads-up display on this map. Gonna roll our wits, and finally probably see something that's not so nice. We're due for it. Alright, still just a weak hit. That 10 in there, unfortunately. So on a weak hit, you are successful. I get to choose one. Take +2 momentum, or take +1 on my next move. I think I'm just going to put it into momentum that he just was able to download this real fast to be able to, real quick, be able to move through the bowels of this ship. So he's got the map loaded. He can take it with him, and now it's time to start booking it to that place, because indeed, like this, every once in a while there'll be kind of like the ship will just kind of rock around, that it'll hit a bad patch of turbulence and it'll lose his footing. I know it's like it's bad. We are losing our orbital velocity quickly, and when this thing crashes, he wants to be nowhere near. So he doesn't exactly want to be cutting it close if possible. And we are going to do this as a set a course, because unless I want to do this as... Actually, I kind of want to... I think we got enough progress to make on here that I want the journey to be, like... I want the journey to be a big part of this, that I'm going to make this a full-on track to get through, an expedition through this ship. Because even though he has the map and everything, it's a big place. I want there to kind of be various hazards and problems along the way to be dealt with, and not just, alright, we're in engineering and get off. Like, I want this to be a much more granular thing than that. Let us add a progress track, which is just Emile's journey to engineering. And we're going to put this as dangerous. And so let's undertake an expedition and see how this starts off. So, moving at speed, keeping under the radar, or staying vigilant. I think right now it's all about moving at speed. There's no time to waste right now. He is just running down the hallways as best as possible. So we're going to roll edge. Getting a strong hit. All right. You reach a waypoint. Envision the... So let's mark a progress on there. Envision the location and mark progress per the rank of the expedition. So we mark 2 boxes of progress out of 10 on here. Not that we need to necessarily do the whole thing to get there. And let's find out what kind of waypoint we get to. Let's pull up a new zone that we're in. And obviously if it's engineering, we're going to ignore that because that's not where we are just yet. Okay, so we make it from medbay into some living quarters. And it is specifically a food storage area that we're in. Perhaps like okay, yeah, this would be a great opportunity. Like, makes it through the kitchen, and he's like, you know what? If I get to this escape pod, it might be a while. Like, I don't even know where I am. We're crashing. I don't know anything about this planet I'm crashing on. I didn't have time to find out about that in the computer. Doesn't have any memory of where they were going or if this is even that area. It's like, this might be a while. I should stock up on some supplies. And so he's probably going to take a moment here to do that. Let's see anything else about just features of this area. Remains of the dead. Okay. So somewhere in here, as he like gets into a pantry to try and just take, canteens of water and any dry provisions or anything like that he could just shove into a backpack. And, finding what he could in the kitchen to stock up, or at least that being the idea. He goes into this pantry, and there's somebody who maybe had the same idea at some point, and the ship took like a big rock, a big knock at some point, and a shelf came down and just smacked them in the back of the head and just conked them out. They're now slumped over on one of the shelves. Lots of cans and things are spilled out over the floor, and there's blood dripping. And since this is a strong hit, I'm not going to make a peril about it specifically, but I do want to maybe explore this waypoint, because I think he recognized it is worth his time to take a moment to do this, even if it costs a little bit of time. It's just, he's got to not only get off this ship, but then survive afterwards. So I'm going to treat it like exploring a waypoint. Looking pretty good. All right. Strong hit. It didn't have a great roll, but thankfully my wits carried me on this. God, I'm rolling so hot right now. I'm just waiting for this all to turn around. On a strong hit, choose one. On a strong hit with a match, which this is not, you may instead make a discovery. So we find an opportunity, envision a favorable insight, situation, resource, or encounter, then take +2 momentum. Or gain progress, mark progress on your expedition per its rank. Now this feels a lot more... The whole point of what I was saying was less about making progress and more about justifying my supply being as high as it is. That I truly have a full 5 supply. I've got food, I've got water. But considering I technically had 5 supply even before this started, I'm going to give myself some other nice thing that I find in here. Perhaps something on the dead body, since that was unexpected. Something they could maybe have access to maybe learn a little bit more about the situation, or just something that'll help him with survival. And we are going to... I'm going to try rolling an opportunity here to see if that helps spark an idea for it. And if that doesn't, we're going to do some good old core, like, action or descriptor and focus kind of stuff. So let's see. Opportunity. What might this be? Intact barricade or protected area. No, that doesn't really fit that well, but let me see what 05... I'm going to swap it from 50 to 05 and see if that makes a little bit more sense. Oops. Not that. What would 05 be? A culturally significant object or artifact. Well, that certainly makes more sense. I still definitely need the descriptor and focus to help me come up with something on the fly for that, though. So let's roll those. Biological boundary. Okay. So that makes me think of some kind of, like... It makes me think of, like, a tough animal skin or something. Or, like some kind of, like, protective mesh or like a like a coating that would help deflect a hard impact or like cutting or something like that. Like something. I think maybe this body on the floor clearly couldn't have protected him that well because they did get brained by this shelf. So like whatever it is wouldn't have helped against something like that. Perhaps it's more it would protect from like chemical or radiation, like biohazard kind of stuff like that, not kinetic impact. Yeah, okay, like a biological boundary like that. So yeah, I think maybe this person. I don't like the idea that they're wearing a hazmat suit because that doesn't make any sense in the context of this ship. I don't think. We haven't determined anything that would really make that make sense. I don't want to go there, but perhaps they have a kind of like a rebreather or something that they're not like it wasn't in their mouth, but they had it almost like on like a one of those like things that goes around your neck that would hold a harmonica, and then you could bring it up to your mouth. Like perhaps they're wearing a kind of rig like that where you could quickly pop a rebreather in that would be just this advanced filter on weird unknown atmospheres or chemical contaminants or stuff like that. And so, yeah, if this winds up being a toxic planet or something like that, then that could be really handy. Yeah, Emile finds that and decides to indeed poach it, and we'll know that kind of specific thing is in his gear now. And he takes a moment to celebrate that, like, it's kind of a half celebration and half a oh right, as he realizes, oh, I didn't even think of that. Like I thought about food, I thought about water. I didn't even think about how I may not be able to breathe on this planet, and this will definitely help with that. So he snags it, and it takes a little bit of doing to get it out from out from you had to kind of like lift up a shelf and move cans and stuff out of the way to be able to get it out from around his neck and then wipe off some blood a little bit, but it's no big deal. Tucks it into the pack as well to be, or I guess even just indeed puts it around, slots it around his neck in that same sort of way to just be at the ready to be, because this whole rig is designed so that you can really quickly pop it into place if necessary and not have to fumble around a lot. Perhaps it can even be, if he takes the moment to later, automated with the OS in his hand to just like when certain things are detected, it like automatically pops up. But he hasn't done that yet. But it's a smart filter. I would make him roll for that kind of thing, but we got all this on a strong hit. He has it. It worked out well. So yeah, having taken this quick detour into here, so far it's just like been this relatively empty ship. It's all been pretty fast. He's hustling, so he's gonna move along to the next kind of zone. Let us do another undertake. And I think that it's still just all about edge. Wits would serve me better, but I think his speed is really what's carrying him. He's definitely not hiding from anybody right now. Ooh. Strong hit with a match. Well, it's getting even like for such a. I envisioned this when I was first starting this game as I'm gonna put this guy in a real just like screwed up situation. I'm not gonna start this character with their own starship. The one that they're on is wrecked. He's already on a progress clock to just like have everything blow up. And like crash into the planet. It's a real bad time. He doesn't know where he is. Let's see if I can get out of this mess. And then like the dice are just hot right now. A strong hit with a match, which is basically a critical success. So not only do I reach a waypoint, let's mark that. I envision location, and it's just like before. And with it being a critical, like this is going to be especially good. Like whatever I find in here, it is super helpful. And I think I'm going to make it as like that I get more information that I get in here. Actually, honestly, the maybe getting the rebreather and the food would be worth getting another tick on escaping to safety, just because the whole point is to safety, and I'm better supplied for that. So I am going to give myself that. I am better. I am equipped for that escape pod. You know what this is reminding me of, actually? I don't know if any of y'all have ever played the game 60 Seconds or the follow-up 60 Parsecs, which would be especially fitting. But you basically have to survive in a bunker or in an escape pod in 60 parsecs as you do these various things. And the first thing you do in this game is frantically against the timer run around an area and gather whatever supplies you can get in the like 60 seconds you have. And that's what you have with you for that run. So that's what I'm doing right now. Emile is just running around the ship, grabbing, food and a sledgehammer and whatever he can get. But let's find out where he wound up in this especially kind discovery along the way. He winds up in. Let's see what 95 would be, because he doesn't wind up back in medical. That wouldn't. I don't want him just be in another med bay. Like, it could make sense that there are multiples, but we're not going to do that. Perhaps he finds something medical in there, like a good like healing gel or something. But let's see what 95 would be. Is that more interesting? It would be a research area. Okay. I'm switching that from 59 to 95, one of the options you can do when things just when they don't line up quite right. He winds up in a research area, and I think this could help him a lot to understand more about VY572 and what happens. Let's see what kind of area this is in research. A decontamination room. Again, I want to see what 52 was. I don't know that for that idea that I was just sparking, that may not work as well. What would 52 be? Isolation or containment? Let's make this a containment zone. And that maybe there's like a piece of VY572 in here. So it's like behind. So you wind up in a room that's like, it's all just like, white plasteel all over the place. These nice surfaces, and there's the room is divided, and there's a section where there's just a clear window where there's the containment area, and generally people go in there with their hazmat suits and everything, because apparently this game really wants me to wind up in getting a hazmat suit involved as quickly as possible. And I think there are some in here. They are actually, let's ask the Oracle on that. Are there hazmat suits left behind in here? I think that is probably likely. Like, that doesn't seem like something people would take in the frantic chaos. I think it's likely there would be at least one working one left behind. So is there a functional hazmat suit here? Yes. Emile's not necessarily taking it, but there is one. And then, behind this glass, there is... I'm going to put this at a 50-50. There is a piece of VY572, which I don't think Emile even really knows exactly what it would... Like, he remembers that there is this great beast, but when he tries to think about what it looks like he can't access it. It's perhaps because it was so gargantuan that his mind can't even conceptualize what it looked like. But there is a piece in here. And is that piece on its own still alive or not? I'm going to put this at 50-50. Is this piece still alive? Yes. Okay, then I want to know more using the oracles on the creatures. A little bit more or I'm not going to roll those, not unless Emile takes the time to learn something about this. So it's in the containment area, which is getting closer towards an area that would then eventually... There's like nearby... I want to say like this is right towards the end where there's about to be a ladder to go down to the next area to like start getting down into the bowels of the ship. To get towards engines. But like something... As he's running past the hallway, like here's this sort of motion inside there, and this has otherwise been such an empty ship that it stands out that there's something like banging around against the plexiglass sort of separation in that room. They can hear a thunk against it over and over again, and it stops him for a moment, and he wonders and takes a peek inside that room and sees that there's a creature in there. Now, is he going to take the opportunity to find out more about it? I I think I gotta. Like, I've been. The clock is fine. I've been. Nothing has advanced it so far. We have time to find out. Let us. Let's gather information while we're here by just kind of observing, like, what is inside here? What is in the containment area? What is this piece? So it's certainly a wits thing, just kind of analyzing not only what he sees behind the glass, but any documents inside the room that might have cataloged kind of like experiments they had done or notes they'd taken, any biological like or vitals that they had, like any measurements that they had on this creature. It may be too much to process right now, but he could, if he finds them, he might be able to store them and kind of analyze them later. This is all just more rummaging for that kind of stuff and seeing what he can find in the moment. So he's going to take that opportunity to gather information while he's here. I'm going to do that rather than. No, you know what? We're going to do this as Explorer Waypoint. They're both going to be kind of similar as far as how they work, but we're in the middle of an exploration. Let's do this through the exploration moves. So let's see what happens here as he takes the opportunity to try and learn something. His curiosity is going to be what gets him blown up with this ship. Okay. So I have a weak hit, but I do have the opportunity to burn momentum to turn into a strong hit. I don't think I'm going to elect to take that. I think a weak hit is going to be good enough for me because I'll still get to learn a little something and take some momentum. I'm fine with that. I've spent so much time building up this momentum. I'm not going to burn it for just this. So I uncover something interesting, but it is bound up in a peril or reveals an ominous aspect of this place. Oh, and that's perfect. I don't even want that to change. Envision what you encounter. And then I take +1 momentum. So let's find out a little bit about this creature, because this is what he's learning right now that's ominous, and like I feel like it banging against that glass has got to be weakening, and this thing is going to break containment. That's got to be what's coming up here, or at least there's a threat of it. But first, what is this thing? What is this piece? This is a space creature, so its basic form. I think this is, even though it's just a piece of it, it's enough through what's in the room to find out a little bit more about this is a part of this hole, and that hole is amorphous / elemental. Okay. I have definitely been envisioning I think with that in mind, that the kind of like amorphous element of it, I feel like this thing is like, it's like a nebula out there. It shifts, it's very colorful. It's like a nebula that maybe at times the colors shift in a way that make it look almost like it's got features and like an eye and stuff like that, but utterly huge. So that, as far as banging against the glass, we've determined it has a way to kind of bang against the glass or make a noise or something. But that sort of nebula thing doesn't work with that so well, so we're going to have to find a way to make that work. So how is it banging against the glass? Perhaps it's more that, like, it's... Okay, we're going to rewrite this a little bit to make it make sense. Not much. Okay. It can interact with some amount of objects. Or maybe even maybe it is just the glass is able to, like, the gas, like, it has enough control over it that it can just, like, compact itself to not take up the entire volume of what it's contained in, make itself more dense, and then to its point where it's almost like a solid object, and then just kind of hurl itself against it. So that's what we see, is like this piece of like cloudy, colorful miasma that's like quivering as it's like, because it's, I don't think it's easy for it to hold itself down into that kind of shape, and that which is part of why it's not escaped so far. Also, I'm thinking back. Apparently, this thing hatches from an egg, based on what we determined earlier. I wonder what that egg is. Well, maybe we'll find out more about it later. But it's like vibrating with its trying desperately to like keep itself dense long enough to be able to just bang up against the glass over and over again. And then like after each time, it has to kind of recover a little bit because it's hard. but it's working on it, and it's definitely making some work happen. I already know that I want this thing to be just utterly ultra scale, just like vast. The whole point of VY572 is that it is such an enormous beast that indeed truly vast. I think is the full scale of this thing. This is just such a tiny piece of it. I'm not going to roll in the first look because I already like what we have about the idea of it being this colorful gas. I don't think any of that stuff is going to work with it, but maybe a revealed creature aspect of it. Yeah, that let's find out a little bit more of, because they've been studying this, and through looking through the papers in here, Emile at least learns. Okay, that does seem like something they'd have in pretty big bold, is that this thing is a paralytic toxin, which is part of why it needs to be contained. So apparently this gas, if it touches you, it quickly can just utterly paralyze you. And Emile is reading this on the paper, and it's been like underlined a bunch of times in like colorful, bold red. Actually, what am I talking about? Paper. It's a data pad that's in here. Come on, we're full. We're prog rock sci-fi in here, not paper. But it's like there's a blinking underline on it that's making it very clear, like this thing is paralytic. If you touch it, do not interact without the benefit of a hazmat suit. Now, due to learning about all that, I think this is definitely worth a note of progress on. I will find VY572 and destroy it. Just because he knows a little bit more about what the hell is VY572, and knows that, like, you shouldn't just touch it directly. I think also some of the notes in here give a little bit of a sense of, like, the full scale, and he learns, like, oh, this thing is bigger than a planet. We're going to mark our first tick of progress on that epic vow. It's the tiniest piece, but it's something. Let's see, is there anything else worth exploring in here? Is there anything that he would stick around? Again, because he's got that vow about finding VY572 and destroying it, I think he wants to take the extra moment to indeed, like, get as much out of this as possible, because without the information that's in this room about the creature, like, he may, if he doesn't find out about a weakness or something like that, like anything they've learned by studying this, he may never find out again. This may be, like, the biggest trove of that information. So knowing that, Emile thinks and he calculates, he goes, no, I've got time. He's like, right, he does some quick calculations on, like, a simulation of how long, that he pulls up, that quickly makes his computer do a simulation of how long it would take to deorbit from, based on the amount of turbulence he's been feeling. Does, like, kind of a quick mock-up, or he has the computer start making a quick mock-up in the background of, like, how much atmosphere that probably is, and so how fast they're probably losing speed, and how long he's got till they hit the ground. Or no, he's not going to actually have the computer do that. I think Emile is a pretty smart dude, and probably, like, he does that kind of nerd math in his head where he does some quick abstractions and comes up with a rough estimate without actually calculating it, because I don't think there's time to truly do that without making a roll. But he convinces himself that he's got time. He's like, I bet, based on all these various assumptions that probably aren't even necessarily true, but he's pretty full of himself and his capabilities, that he's got time for it. He knows where he's going. He knows how long it should take him to get to engineering. And he's counting on it's not going to be that complicated when he gets there. So he takes a moment to this time gather information by actually, like, really studying the logs in here and the anything that they had, trying to scan, get as much as possible, like taking quick pictures of, like, because I think whatever pad he's got where they've got anything written down about what they've done, there's no good interface to connect it to something else, or whatever's there is damaged or something. He's not able to do it just like that. but he can maybe find the right kind of. He can't just download it all, but maybe he could like take pictures and look at it when he's got more time. No, no, he's got no camera or anything. I don't want this hand to just do like everything. It interacts with objects and it interfaces and stuff, and it allows for some hacking, but it's not just this complete multi-tool. So he's just got to find out what he can read in the time that he has, and that makes more sense for this role. So we're going to gather information and see what he can pull from this about specifically trying to find out like there's two primary things he wants to know. How did they find it? Like where is this thing's home? How do you track it? And have they determined any kind of weakness or ability to turn off the paralytic? Anything he could know that he could use to his advantage about the full creature? Oh, you know what? I never took my +1 momentum from that weak hit. Almost denied myself something I'd earned. Okay, and so once again, I had the opportunity. I could burn this and turn it into a strong hit if I want. But again, I don't know that I hate that. I'd rather have that high momentum for some important stuff that's going to be coming up when I need to, get a escape pod back into a tube somehow. So the information provides new insight, but also complicates my quest. Envision what I discover, then take +1 momentum. I'm going to leave it that way. I'm just going to do the momentum now just because I almost forgot last time, and I don't want that to happen again. So what do I discover? I think with it being a weak hit, I can't learn about both of those things. And so I think more important is to learn how would I find this thing again. Perhaps he cannot quickly enough determine any kind of weakness. They were still in progress. There wasn't time to find out ways to really disable this creature or weaken it. It just got kind of like sucked in here through sort of a vacuum, and then they dispensed it in the room, but have not been able to fully study it enough for that. But he does learn some information about how they found it to begin with. Here's what it is, and here's why it complicates things. What he learns is that there is part of the reason why this thing is banging against the glass, presumably, is that there is a tendency for this thing, like it wants to all be one form. It does not like to be separated like this. And so every piece of this thing as they've always observed, the pieces seem to want to stay together. There is, as he's seeing right now, a kind of intelligence to each individual piece. And they seem to use that kind of intelligence to, failing anything else, failing any other objectives, at least come back to the greatest portion. They apparently did some tests where even this cloud here, they were able to separate into some different areas. And they always found that, like, that sometimes they'd have like a big mass and then like various small ones, and the small ones always seem to want to go back to the big. Actually, no. Okay, here's what's most complicated about it. All of the pieces seem to want to go back to each other. There was no pattern on which one would go where. Like, sometimes the big would go to the small, sometimes the small would go to the big, but they, generally speaking, wanted to go back to each other. And so he learns that while they found VY572 by, like, just watching the skies and, like, ground operations that were way more expensive and complicated with these massive, expensive telescopes and space telescopes that measured all kinds of different things and plotting trajectories and really studying where it had been going, like, well beyond what you could do as an individual. They found the big VY572 that way. But perhaps it sometimes leaves what they refer to as smears. That there's, like, in the same way that like a snail leaves kind of a trail behind it, they've observed that VY572 leaves what they call these smears of kind of gas behind that eventually catch up, but it's kind of this elongated trail behind it. And while they were en route, they captured one of these smears. And they've been studying it, and they know that eventually the smears catch up, and they've been able to observe that. And you could theoretically use this smear in order to kind of follow it back to the core. Because it seems no matter what they did to kind of deprive sensations or things like that, like they did it with the lights off, they tried to do anything possible to try and make it unclear, to remove stimuli, and still these things tended to go back to each other. Like even if you had one inside a completely opaque box and another inside a completely opaque box and took those to completely different parts of the room, if you observe through the cameras inside that box, as they did through these experiments, the gas would tend to, rather than fill up the whole thing equally, they observed more particles of the gas on the sides of the box that were towards the other box. And so you could use this almost like a compass. And so why this is complicated for Emile right now, of course, is that means that if he wants to be able to use this smear to be able to find VY572 someday, well, he's going to have to interact with it, and we know it's paralyzing, and he knows it's paralyzing. I am going to mark one more epic tick on the ability to find VY572 and destroy it, because he knows a very important thing about that. And thankfully it didn't cost him the time he was worried about. I already took the +1 momentum, so now he's in a bind. Does he truly want to take the time to, like, I don't envision putting on the hazmat suit and being fully ready to interact with this as being a quick process. I don't think that's even a role. I think doing that is just an acceptance that, like, the fiction would demand the clock would tick forward in order to do that. It just takes time to be suited up in a way that makes that you can trust. If you don't take that time, it's just not going to be sealed appropriately. So does he do this, or does he have faith that he could find another smear someday? And I think Emile is not going to completely go gung-ho on this now. He's just going to have the faith that, like, this is important information. It leaves behind smears. It'll leave behind more smears. Because apparently these, by their writings, they extend out for, across solar systems. Like, it's not like you have to be close in order to get to one. This all happens over a, like, cosmic scale of time. Perhaps other people have even collected these smears at times. As it bangs up against the kind of, and the cracks and fissures are forming in this this glass, he recognizes. Oh, in fact, you know what? I'm going to ask the Oracle real quick, because he took some time to do that. I think it is unlikely, but has the creature, has the smear been able to breach that containment in that time? Like, is this also part of the complication? No. Solid no on that. So yeah, he's safe then. Let's continue on through the ship and hit another area on here. So I'm pulling up the oracles once more. We're out of the research. I don't even need to. I know that he's going down the ladder here. I guess I need to find out what's on the other side of it, though. All right, so the next area as you go down this ladder takes you to... nope, weird. I guess it could still be research in just a different part of research. Because it's not inherently... Yeah, it's further research down below. And this area is a clean room. Oh, I guess I should have... Good thing this is still research and nothing that different, because I need to make another exploration move to even get to another area. So let's do that part. I did this a bit out of order. So as he heads out of the clean room, and so this is a miss. We finally have one. On a miss, you are waylaid by a crisis, or arrive at a waypoint to confront an immediate hardship or threat. Do not mark progress, and pay the price. So first things first, we definitely have to tick up the time on that clock before the ship just utterly crashes. And so that's part of paying the price. But I feel like now I feel bad for having just done the oracle about the whether or not that thing broke containment, because that seems to be the most likely thing right now based on this is either this breaks containment or perhaps something else does. Yeah, to not invalidate what we just did, perhaps there are other rooms in this research area, and they've studied other things. Maybe something else has broken containment. Right near as he leaves this room, he hears a crash from one of the adjoining ones. It's ahead where he's trying to get to, and something comes out that door. And let's find out a little bit about what that is. And then after that's all done, I will appropriately pay the price. So let's pull up the creature oracles again, because I think again they were studying various creatures on here. I think we have this ship is almost a little bit of a, perhaps we're learning right now. It's a little bit of almost a menagerie. They study these exotic creatures from across the universe, and so have been rather drawn to VY572. So the creature's basic form. Let's find out what environment it was even this is from, because this is a completely different one. All right. Whatever creature was in here is an interior kind of creature. A lot of amorphous, though. This is an amoeba slash pseudopods. I don't think it's going to be completely, to make it different, not a full-on amoeba, but it definitely can extend out these like pseudopods as it moves that way. Yeah, I guess that is kind of relatively amorphous, but we keep getting those. Let's see what kind of scale we're talking about here. Okay, it's small. It's like the size of a dog. And we don't know that it's inherently hostile, but that's certainly Emile's first worry. All right, a first look at it determines graceful. What a dainty little pseudopod creature. It moves with an undulating grace where, like, I feel like as it extends these pseudopods, it's this very flowy, constant motion it's almost like it's like watching a lava lamp. Yeah, okay, yeah, we've got sentient lava lamp goo here. Oh, that would be super cool. Okay. So, rather, one of its aspects, I'm going to reveal another one, but one of its aspects is that this is totally hypnotizing to watch because it's so graceful and lava lamp-like that you become transfixed as it swirls these kind of psychedelic colors. Clearly, this area liked studying amorphous, psychedelic, colorful things. We truly are in the prog rock area of this ship. They kept things organized. Colorful amorphous things in this zone. So one of its aspects is that you are in danger of being hypnotized by it. But another aspect, potentially, I'll determine if I want this second one or not, is that it is magnetic. Oh, sure. All right, so maybe it's not as colorful as I thought, or like it slowly shifts through colors, but it's perhaps it is more metallic. It's like liquid metal. It's a magnetic, a ferromagnetic liquid metal it's all kinds of shiny, and it still bloops around very gracefully. And so what's cool about it being magnetic is like it's magnetic in like both physically and metaphorically. Like it draws you in. Oh, and Emile, like, okay, so here's part of the it's not only does it come out through the door, but then like I don't think that it starts out inherently hostile because it's not doing that. But I think what happens is when it comes out of this room, because there's like a crashing sound as a tank like falls over. There's like the ship hits a bump. The turbulence rocks real hard in a moment, and then there's a crash from up ahead as something hits the ground, glass shattering, and then smoothly moving out through, shortly afterwards, through like the seams around the door. It kind of like goes around all four. Or you know what, it's only the size of like a dog, so it's not door sized. But out the bottom and around some of the sides at these nice right angles, almost like extruding Play-Doh for a moment. this thick, viscous, metallic-looking fluid comes out and then blorps back on the other side so smoothly and gracefully. And then it kind of like extends up these two, almost like they're like eye stalks that come up the top of it, and they're clearly, they make little bulbs on top, and because it is so just like metallic looking, you can't really tell which direction is forward. But one of them, like they're kind of rotating around, and they seem to clearly be aware of Emile, and in that moment, through perhaps a startle response, the magnetism of it enhances, and like these rippling way, like it kind of, you see the surface sort of ripple a little bit, and it's vibrating through the magnetism, and that magnetism does a couple of things. One, it is pulling it is attaching to the glove that Emile's got, and drawing him towards this creature lightning fast, like not lightning fast, but like with a strong pull from this distance, stronger than you might expect. It is launching him towards this creature, and as he's getting closer to it, that magnetism is fucking with all of his display. It's making it kind of go all kinds of, digital glitch and everything like that. All right, let's properly pay the price. We're definitely going to at least lose momentum on this. I think right now it's just a serious setback, because he's going to get like stuck up with this creature and it's fucking with his map. So we're going to lose 2 momentum. And then, yeah, Emile, he's like flying through the air towards this magnetic blob, and whether or not he can avoid just getting utterly subsumed into it, and what's going to happen afterwards, well, that's a question for next time. The story continues in the next episode, and if that episode doesn't exist yet, more Starforged Left Behind releases every Wednesday on all your podcast platforms. You should always like and subscribe to things that you want to keep existing, and if that includes my podcast, then that just makes me feel all warm and fuzzy. But of course, the kindest thing you can do if you liked what you heard here is to tell a friend. This week's action and theme are follow and fear. Send me an NPC idea based on those prompts, and if I like it enough, they just might make it into the story. Email me at starforgedpod@gmail.com with any NPCs, questions, suggestions, or just because. I'll never balk at a just because email. Now play me out, music.